Breaking news as Israel carried out limited missile strikes in Iran earlier today in retaliation for the barrage of missiles and drones that were fired at Israel late Saturday. Welcome to today's edition of Just the Truth. Glad to have you join me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. We'll have the all the information that we have available right now on Israel in just a moment. Other news we're going to be covering today, 12 jurors have been selected and sworn in to serve on the jury of former President Donald Trump's historic and unprecedented first criminal trial. We'll introduce them to you in today's episode as well. Meanwhile, as Trump left the court today, he said Biden should be in jail and on trial while blasting New York's case, saying the whole world is watching as this fiasco unfolds. Joe Biden picked up some endorsements of a number of Robert F. Kennedy's family, including his sister, Kerry Kennedy, who appeared on CNN with Wolf Blitzer. We'll have that for you. And Momma always told us to eat our fruits and vegetables, right? Well, maybe not so fast. According to some news reports, some of the fruits and veggies may have an unhealthy dose of pesticides in them. We'll tell you what to look out for. Hope you'll join the conversation today as well on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Send your comments to 864-477-5639. Voice messages are welcome, as are your emails, joey@joeyhudson.com.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
On our guest line this morning, Senator Tim Scott.
Thank you for listening to one of the best radio shows. Joey, God bless your leadership.
Joey, congratulations on your new show.
I just wanted to let you know that I always appreciate your perspective and your common sense approach to the issues.
You know what? If people like you keep telling us the truth, believe me, we're paying close attention.
Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Breaking overnight, Israel carried out limited missile strikes, we're told. Fox News Digital has confirmed there have been explosions in Isfahan, which is a province where Natanz is located, though it's not clear whether or not it's been hit. Now, Natanz is the site of one of Iran's nuclear facilities. A well-placed military source has told media that the strike was, quote, limited. Pentagon officials have not confirmed the details of the strike yet. Commercial flights, meanwhile, began diverting their routes early this morning over western Iran without explanation, as one semi-official news agency in the Islamic Republic claimed there had been explosions heard over the city of Isfahan, according to Reuters. The semi-official Fars news agency reported on the sound of explosions over Isfahan near its international airport. It offered no explanation for the blast. However, Isfahan is home to a major air base for the Iranian military, as well as sites associated with its nuclear program. Iran attacked Israel, of course, over the weekend in retaliation for Israel's deadly strike on Iran's consulate earlier this month that killed a dozen people, including a top general. The weekend attack by Iran marked a major escalation of violence. Despite decades of hostilities between the two nations, Iran has never directly attacked Israel, instead relying on proxy forces in Iraq, Lebanon, and elsewhere in the region. This is a developing story as details are continuing to be gathered. Former President Trump declared it is President Joe Biden who should be in jail and be on trial, while blasting the case against him, saying the whole world is watching this New York scandal, as he left court after the third day of his historic and unprecedented criminal trial.
It's a shame. It's a shame. And I'm sitting here for days now, from morning till night, in that freezing room, freezing. Everybody was freezing in there. And all for this, and this is your result. Look at that, each one of them a story. And it's very unfair, very bad thing. Very bad thing. The whole world is watching this hoax. You got a DA that's out of control. You have a judge that's highly conflicted. The whole thing is a mess, and you have the leading candidate and leading crooked Joe Biden by a lot. He's the one that should be in trial. He's a crook. You got a crooked president. He should be in trial with all the stuff he's done and his family. He should be in trial, but he's the one in charge. His top people are here, working with the DA's office to make sure everything goes right. but it shouldn't go right because they have no case, and that's what this is all about. And it really is a shame. This country is devolving into a third world country between having no borders, having no justice, we have no justice, and having a press that doesn't want to cover the facts. So thank you very much.
The former president, shortly after a full jury was selected to hear arguments from his defense attorneys and Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg as he seeks to make his case, stood in the hallway of the courthouse addressing the press, at one point just actually lambasting the press. Trump held a thick stack of news articles as he was standing there, paging through them from a range of different news outlets, he said, media organizations, and he read through some of them as the media looked on, saying every one of them knows that the case is unfair and a very bad thing, he said. He said the whole world is watching this New York scandal, calling it a spectacle.
I'm supposed to be in New Hampshire. I'm supposed to be in Georgia. I'm supposed to be in North Carolina, South Carolina. I'm supposed to be in a lot of different places campaigning. But I've been here all day on a trial that really is a very unfair trial. These are all stories. This is over the last few days from legal experts. This is Wall Street Journal editorial. But all of these are stories from legal experts saying how this is not a case. The case is ridiculous. There's another one. The case is a ridiculous Trump indictment. It's missing fraud. There is no fraud. All of these stories are stories of how, and these are done by the experts, and editorials. Bragg falsified business record, and he falsifies them. He's the one. He's the fraud. But take a look at all of these are stories. You see them here. Bragg's indictment even falls as an indictment. All of them. Bragg crosses the Rubicon, indicting Trump on nonsense. The whopping outrage in Trump's indictment. It's a whopping outrage, and it is an outrage. Everybody's outraged by it. You know, we had 18 DA or DA types or clubs. 18 or 19 or 21, they counted all them in and out like. And in the meantime, you have murders going on right outside in New York. Look at this. National Review. Another National Review. Jonathan Turley, Greg Jarrett, Andrew McCarthy. Every one of them saying they call it a zombie case, meaning it is no case.
As you heard, the former president blasted Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg as out of control, said Judge Juan Merchan, who's presiding over the case, is highly conflicted. Trump was seemingly referring to the Biden family's business dealings, which have been under investigation, as you know, by House Republicans, when he said that Biden is the one who should be on trial, calling him a crook. Hunter Biden, currently under investigation by special counsel David Weiss, who has charged the first son twice in two separate jurisdictions. Trump claimed that Biden's top people were in New York working with the DA's office to make sure, quote, everything goes right. Trump said under Biden, the United States is devolving into a third world country between having no borders, having no justice, and having a press that doesn't want to cover the facts. Trump has been charged by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg with 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree. The charges are related to the alleged hush money payments made to adult film actress Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 presidential election. Trump has pleaded not guilty to all counts. He's blasted the trial as pure politics, a political persecution, he's called it, and maintains his innocence. He said, I tell the truth when asked about his possible testimony next week. He's the first president in history to stand criminal trial. Meanwhile, 12 jurors have been selected and sworn in to serve as the jury. Trump, of course, the presumptive Republican presidential nominee, has been charged with these 34 counts of falsifying business records. He pleaded not guilty. By the end of the jury selection yesterday, the third day of jury selection. 12 jurors had been selected. They were sworn in. The jury pool so far includes 4 men and 3 women, all living in New York City. Their professions included work in law, finance, technology, and more. Judge Juan Merchant said when the 12th juror was picked Thursday afternoon, "We have our jury. Let's pick our alternates." Merchant dismissed the remaining prospective jurors and asked that they return to court Friday so that alternate jurors could be selected. Here's a look at some of the ones. Again, they're not identified by their name, just as, for example, juror number 1 and the foreman lives in New York City. He has no children, enjoys doing anything outdoorsy. He gets his news from the New York Times, Daily Mail, Fox News, and MSNBC. Now, that's an interesting combination, isn't it? When asked by Trump defense attorney Todd Blanche if he is aware Trump is charged in other cases in his jurisdictions and how that affects us, the man said, "I don't have an opinion." Juror number 2, for example, is a man who said he follows Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, on X, Twitter, as well as other right-wing accounts, including former Trump advisor Kellyanne Conway. The reason he said he follows those figures was so he could be plugged into anything that might move the markets that he needs to know about. When asked if he would unfollow Cohen, as he may be a witness later in the trial, he agreed and said absolutely. The man also said he's not seen any evidence relating to the case. He said, "I'll try to keep an open mind." I'll have to say I have my doubts if he's following Kellyanne Conway and Michael Cohen on X as to whether or not he can keep an open mind. Number 3 is a young to middle-aged man who lives in Manhattan. The man said he grew up in Oregon and has been an attorney for 5 years practicing corporate law. Said he enjoys hiking and running and gets his news from the New York Times and Google. Number 4 is originally from California but has lived in New York City for 15 years. The man said he has been a security engineer for 25 years and holds a high school diploma with some college education. He's married with 3 children. His wife is a teacher. During his spare time, he says he enjoys being with his children, woodworking and metalworking. He said he served on a jury before, on both a grand jury and a jury in a criminal trial. He said he gets his news from a smattering of news sources. As for social media, he said he doesn't use it. Says he has a relative who works in finance and brother-in-laws who are attorneys as well. Juror number 5 is young also, New York native, who's been a teacher of English language arts for 8 years. She is previously a caseworker at a juvenile detention center. She said she has a master's degree in education. She says that she's creative at heart and that she's not married, does not have children. Her mother was an administrative aide for a police department. Says she gets her news from Google and TikTok. She was asked if Trump chose not to testify, whether she would hold that against him. She said, "I won't hold that against him." She explained that she has friends who have strong opinions on the former president, but said she's not a political person and tries to avoid political conversations. She said, however, that she appreciates Trump's candor. She said, "President Trump speaks his mind, and I'd rather that than someone who's in office who you don't know what they're thinking," like Joe Biden. My words, not hers, of course. Juror number 7 is originally from North Carolina and works as an attorney and civil litigator. He's married with 2 children. His wife works in risk management for a bank. He said he enjoys spending time outdoors and with his family. He gets his news from the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Post, and the Washington Post. When asked if his career as a lawyer would impact his ability to serve fair and impartially, or whether his opinions would get in his way, he said that he does have political views as to the Trump presidency, and said there were likely Trump administration policies he disagreed with. He says, "I don't know the man, and I don't have any opinions about him personally." Now, how can you disagree with his political views but not have personal opinions of Donald Trump? Juror number 8's been selected. Information on this juror not available. Number 9 is a woman who lives in Manhattan, originally from New Jersey, and works as a speech therapist. She's not married, does not have children. Says she likes to spend time with friends, go to restaurants, and go on walks. She said she's never served on a jury, does not watch the news or follow current events too closely. She said when she did, though, she had email subscriptions to CNN and the New York Times. Says she follows social media accounts, listens to podcasts, and enjoys reality TV. Now, I've got to say I'm a little suspect when she says she doesn't watch the news or follow current events, but yet she has a subscription to CNN and the New York Times. That's a little bit suspect. She says she does not listen to talk radio. Juror number 10 is a man who lives in Manhattan. He was born and raised in Ohio, works in commerce for a large company, has a college degree, is not married, has no children, but lives with another adult who works in accounting. Man says he enjoys being outdoors, loves animals, says he does not really follow the news, but listens to podcasts on behavioral psychology. Man says he has no strong opinions on how Trump is being treated in this case. Juror number 11 and 12, no information on them. So what do you think? Does Trump have a chance at getting a fair trial with any of these people within New York City? We'll see. Love to get your comments. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639 is the Furman Ford text line. Your comments are welcome, as are your voice messages. Email us, joey@joeyhudson.com. So Joe Biden picked up some endorsements yesterday from an unlikely source, Robert F. Kennedy's family, including his sister, Kerry Kennedy, who appeared on CNN with Wolf Blitzer. But it was a little hard to hear her at times because of a protester who can be heard screaming in the background as he's being removed from the rally in Philadelphia. I'll give you those details and those sound bites in just a moment. First, let me talk with you about PhD weight loss and nutrition. Boy, am I glad that I was introduced to Dr. Ashley Lucas 4 years ago. And I'm glad I made that phone call to 864-252-4925, set up my consultation, and then enrolled in the program. Some of you have followed my journey. It was a successful journey and continues to be successful. I initially lost 30 pounds pretty quickly, and I've been able to maintain that weight over almost 4 years now. So if you're listening today, if you've been hearing me talk about PhD weight loss and nutrition for almost 4 years now, and about the great job that Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team does, she has offices in Greenville, Asheville, Charlotte, Lake Norman, and anywhere in the world. If you have a telephone, you can do the PhD weight loss and nutrition program. We've had listeners from all around the country, Ohio, Illinois, Alabama, just all states who have been successful at PhD weight loss and nutrition. If you need to lose weight and you want to do it for the last time, visit them online at myphdweightloss.com or call 864-252-4925. Set up that consultation today. PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, the official partner of the Clemson Tigers. A screaming protester was dragged out of a Biden campaign event in Philadelphia yesterday as Kerry Kennedy, the sister of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., was on CNN with Wolf Blitzer explaining to him why a large group of the Kennedy family are endorsing Joe Biden over their brother and their cousin. Members of independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s family literally snubbed their relative to throw their support behind Joe Biden's reelection bid. As Kerry Kennedy was explaining the endorsement to CNN's Wolf Blitzer ahead of the event, a shrieking protester could be heard lashing out in the background saying, "I have rights, I have rights, I have rights to be here," as he was literally being dragged out of the venue. Here's Kerry Kennedy with Wolf Blitzer.
She's the sister of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and a human rights activist. Kerry, thank you so much for joining us. Why have you decided to endorse President Biden today over your brother, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.?
You know, I'm endorsing President Biden, and in fact, nearly every member of Joe and Rose Kennedy's grandchildren are endorsing President Biden today. For one reason, we are in the most important presidential election of our lifetime. Trump poses an existential threat to our country. He's said he's proud of packing the Supreme Court and overturning Roe v. Wade. He said he's going to be a dictator on day one. He said he wants to change the Constitution so he can go after his enemies, members of the press, the fourth estate in our country, which keeps our democracy going. So we cannot have this happen in our country. It would be a complete disaster if he is elected. Joe Biden, on the other hand, has been an extraordinary leader for us. He stood with the United Auto Workers. He's a man we can trust and who carries forth Bobby Kennedy's values and John Kennedy's values.
As you know, Kerry, the Biden campaign is concerned that your brother will potentially take votes away from President Biden in some of the very key and close swing states. Are you concerned that your brother will play potentially a spoiler role in this election?
You know, I think we all know this is going to be a very, very close election. So the only way Biden will win if everybody comes out and votes. That's the way Biden wins. So we need everybody to come and vote. Vote for President Biden. If you vote for somebody else, that's a vote for Trump. Don't do that. Vote for Biden.
That was a little hard to hear at times. I just wanted you to get the effect. I watched the video, and someone else had posted a video that they had taken with their phone from a different angle, and you can see this guy behind where the podium was going to be, where Joe Biden would be speaking just a little later, and they literally were having to security was having to force him out of the building. Kennedy, she seemed to be kind of startled as the screaming protester, but she wasn't deterred. She just kept talking. Have you noticed how her voice sounds a little raspy, just like her brother? What's going on with how the Kennedys sound? I know that RFK has had throat issues and all, but not sure what her story is. I mean, she sounded very much had that same raspiness in her voice. She told Blitzer that a vote for somebody else, such as her brother, was a vote for Trump, as the demonstrator is wailing in the background. The Democrat National Committee has recently prioritized efforts to try to combat the threat that they believe RFK Jr. and other third-party candidates pose to Biden's reelection bid. The independent candidates' siblings, Kerry, Rory, Joseph, Kathleen, Christopher, and Maxwell, along with 9 other Kennedy family members, endorsed Biden at this event in Philadelphia yesterday. Cops stormed Columbia University in New York City. They busted 108 anti-Israel protesters after the university president finally asked the NYPD to clear the campus. Details on that in just a moment. First, let me talk with you about that new vehicle that you're looking for, whether it's a car, an SUV, maybe you need a new work truck, an F-150. It's never been more important, I believe, to support locally run businesses like Furman Ford in Lawrence. I love to do business with local businesses because you know the money will stay here in our community. And here's the other good thing about dealing with Furman Ford. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line with every single transaction. So when you go buy Furman Ford in Lawrence, when you call them, when you email them, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman family. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They'll help you navigate the fantastic deals that they have on a great selection. They have a huge inventory down there. I was there a few weeks ago, and they just have the best inventory I've seen them have in quite some time. And they also have a great inventory of pre-owned vehicles that you can trust. They have had the Furman Ford inspection. And what's even better, when you drive that vehicle off the lot, again, you know that your money stays right there in our community. Furman Ford. Hope you'll visit them in Lawrence. Find them online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. More than 100 protesters were cuffed and hauled away from Columbia University when the NYPD showed up in riot gear. They swarmed the campus yesterday after the president made the decision to clear a large anti-Israel protest encampment. At least 108 protesters, including some who had been carried away, were quickly filed onto awaiting NYPD corrections buses. A huge crowd of demonstrators then defiantly swarmed to the police vehicles to temporarily block them from leaving the scene. Not a good idea, by the way. In the wake of the bus, officers then set about tearing down dozens of tents and dumping them in the trash. One 20-year-old Columbia student who didn't want to be named told the New York Post, "I applaud the cops. They're doing the right thing. We don't feel safe. We fear for our lives. Remember who started this? Hamas, the terrorist groups," he added. "We pay a lot of money to come here, and we should feel safe and protected." Columbia President Minok Shafiq announced that she had authorized the NYPD to crack down on the encampment. Dozens of students occupied the camp on Columbia's South Lawn, which went up Wednesday morning, even after the administration had warned participants to be cleared by 9 p.m. Wednesday evening, or they would risk preliminary suspensions. When cops first entered the campus, they warned the demonstrators that they'd be arrested if they did not clear out. Armed with bags of zip ties, the officers then set about detaining those who ignored the warnings. While the student protesters sat quietly in rows and didn't resist arrest, about 500 onlookers could be seen jeering and shouting at the authorities to stand down. Crowd taunting, "Shame, shame, shame, let them go." Some of the taunts were more vile, such as telling the officers to kill themselves and accusing them of being the KKK. The NYPD said at an evening press conference they're not going to tolerate this type of behavior. Mayor Eric Adams said students have a right to free speech. They do not have a right to violate university policies and disrupt learning on campus. "I know the conflict in the Middle East has left many of us grieving and angry. This is a painful moment for our city, for our country, and for the globe. New Yorkers have every right to express their sorrow, but that heartbreak does not give you the right to harass others to spread hate," he said. In the lead up to the crackdown, the NYPD moved to an area a couple of blocks away from the campus. Several lines of officers equipped with riot gear helmets were seen walking down Broadway south of the school, just a short distance from the campus gates where the NYPD moved in eventually. Meanwhile, the president had earlier emailed students, faculty, and staff saying she had requested the NYPD's assistance despite her hopes that the move would never be necessary. She said, "I took this extraordinary step because these are extraordinary circumstances. The individuals who established the encampment violated a long list of rules and policies." The student protesters were warned several times to clear out from the encampment, the president said. "We also tried through a number of channels to engage with their concerns and offered to continue discussions if they would agree to disperse. They refused." She said, "I regret all that these attempts to resolve the situation were rejected by the students involved." So now they had to call mommy and daddy and ask them to send them some bail money to get out of jail. 864-477-JOEY is the Furman Ford text line. Texter writes, "Joey, when the yellow-belly coward Republicans unite, things will get done to make our laws respected. They have no respect for the people who voted them in office. They are disgraceful." Christy says, "Good morning. Just listening to the impeachment fiasco. Sad to say, when or even if the November rolls around, this election will likely have issues. These liberals will do anything to keep the control they have now. We've already seen there's no bottom to their lowest actions. We all need to be worried about losing the country that we grew up in. It's almost gone now." Well, Christy, hang in there, because I feel confident about November. We can win in November, Christy, and turn things around. Pete writes on the Furman Ford text line, "Hi, Joey. Been out of the loop for a while. If the Republicans really cared, they would have been trying to impeach him way earlier instead of waiting to the end of the game. Same old political theater." These are comments, of course, in reference to the impeachment of Secretary Mayorkas, which the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer just through parliamentary procedure yesterday just dismissed. No trial, no discussion. Pete, where you been? Glad you're back in the loop. We want to keep up with you there, Pete. And don't think I don't know that you haven't been listening. I'm watching you, Pete. I'm listening to you, Pete. Just kidding, of course. Appreciate your comment on the Furman Ford text line. Susan says, "Chuck Schumer in the Democrat-controlled Senate stopped impeachment proceedings against Mayorkas, who had committed impeachable offenses, while Rhino McConnell, even though Republicans controlled the Senate in 2020, allowed Trump's impeachment over an innocuous phone call to proceed." Very true. Very true. This impeachment of Mayorkas, who has allowed our country to be invaded, this is political theater, according to them. But yet they felt justified in impeaching Donald Trump twice. Texter says, Joey, World War III, ? Folks, we would not be here if Trump were president. Elections have consequences. Yes, they do, for sure. Look, that's why, again, we have to show up and vote in November. Our text of encouragement today. Few things in the world are more powerful than a positive push, a smile, a word of optimism and hope. God bless, from Joel. And also Jeff, who had texted me to remind me that we had talked about doing God truths every day. And I said, okay, some days I didn't do them just for the sake of time, but Jeff says, hey, he thinks it's a good thing to do every day. So until I hear otherwise, we're going to do that. Jeff sent me his favorite Psalm 118:14. The Lord is my strength and my defense. He has become my salvation. I'd love for you to send me your favorite verse as well. Just send that to the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-5639. Speaking of that, what a great story out of Athens, Georgia. Thousands of UGA college students gathered for an impromptu baptism, literally in the back of pickup trucks. Here's the story. The organization Unite, which focuses on bringing college students into the ministry, held an event at the University of Georgia recently, and so many people felt moved by the message that they began doing baptisms in pickup truck beds. Unite, which is founded by Tanya Prewitt in 2023, brought the event to the Coliseum there on the Georgia campus. Around 8,000 people showed up, and after listening to sermons, they moved to the parking lot where about 150 people solidified their faith through baptism. Unite first began at Auburn University last September after Tanya spent time mentoring college students and heard stories of their pain, anxiety, and depression. She said she came out with a vision from God saying, I had a vision of thousands of students gathered in an arena worshiping together, she said. This was in an article in the Christian Post. She said, I started meeting with local pastors and ministry leaders in the community sharing the vision. Every leader joined in the vision, she said, and in about 6 weeks, Unite Auburn took place. We had close to 5,000 students show up for the event, and around 200 were baptized that night. Since then, we've had campus crusades on Florida State University, Alabama, and Georgia. Florida State's event ended with about 300 baptisms. The University of Alabama had about 260, she said. Tanya's organization doesn't stop with baptisms, however. After bringing students to Christ, Unite helps connect each individual to a nearby church that fits their needs. She said, we're able to get every name and number for each student who is baptized. Our organization will follow up with each student and will provide a list of every church and campus ministry in the area. Unite will keep moving across the country, she says. It'll make its next stop at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. 864-477-5639. You're welcome to send me your encouraging stories and Bible verses. So our God truth of today, I promised Jeff I'd do these every day, comes from a book that I read quite often. It's called Streams in the Desert. It's a devotional book written by L.B. Cowman. The purpose of our trials is not only to test our worthiness, but also to increase it, just as the mighty oak is tested by the storms as well as strengthened by them. This comes, our verse is 1 Corinthians 16:13, be men of courage, be strong. He writes, never pray for an easier life, pray to be a stronger person. Never pray for task equal to your power, pray for power equal to your task. Then doing your work will be no miracle, you will be the miracle. Philip Brooks. Goes on to write, we must remember that Christ will not lead us to greatness through an easy or self-indulgent life. An easy life does not lift us up, but only takes us down. Heaven is always above us, and we must continually be looking toward it. Some people always avoid things that are costly or things that require self-denial, self-restraint, and self-sacrifice. Yet it's hard work and difficulties that ultimately lead us to greatness. For greatness is not found by walking the moss-covered path laid out for us through the meadow. It's found by being sent to carve out our own path with our own hands. Are you willing to sacrifice to reach the glorious mountain peaks of God's purpose for you? That's your question for today. 864-477-5639. Again, your comments welcome. You can send us your recommendations for a future God Truth to our Furman Ford text line. So Mama always told us to eat our fruits and vegetables. Well, maybe not so fast. According to some news reports, some of the fruits and veggies may have an unhealthy dose of pesticides in them. I got the details here. I'll share with you in just a moment. First, let me talk with you about the refrigerator that you keep those fruits and vegetables in. Did it go out on you? Did you open it this morning and it's dark? Well, you need to call my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. Are you tired of trying to buy appliances from inexperienced salespeople from the big box stores where they just have a line of stoves and refrigerators and microwaves with all kind of brands of features, options that you just know nothing about, and there's no one there who can tell you about them either? It's tough figuring it out, isn't it? And appliances are an expensive purchase, so you can't afford to get it wrong. That's why I recommend shopping at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. They have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating, nearly perfect reviews on Google, and the team at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they have the knowledge that you need to have confidence in your purchase, that you're going to get it right. When you write that check or you swipe that credit card, you're going to know you got the right one. They'll show you around their warehouse. It's about 11,000 square feet, slam packed with new appliances just waiting for you. They'll help you find the right solution for you and your family. They offer expert installation. They have an award-winning service department and extended warranties, and they have you covered well beyond the sale. Discounted Appliance Warehouse is proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with up to a 7-year warranty on parts and labor as well. Find them in Pickens and online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com. About 20% of all fruits and vegetables examined by Consumer Reports in this new study they just released reveal that they have an unhealthy dose of dangerous pesticides. Consumer Reports published a report. It's its most comprehensive review of pesticides in food to date after analyzing 59 common fruits and vegetables, which included fresh, canned, dried, and frozen products. They wrote in the report, our new results continue to raise red flags. Pesticides posed significant risk in 20% of the foods that we examined. Now remember, Consumer Reports is a nonprofit organization that tests consumer products for safety and other features. Bell peppers, blueberries, potatoes, and strawberries were included in the report, as well as green beans, which had residues of a pesticide that hasn't been allowed to be used on the vegetable in the U.S. for over a decade, according to their report. The organization said imported produce, especially from Mexico, was particularly likely to carry risky levels of pesticide residues. You know, when I first read this, my first thought was, not only is Mexico, they're trying to invade our country, maybe they're trying to poison us at the same time. I don't want to start that conspiracy theory. Consumer Reports analyzed that 7 years of data that they received from the Department of Agriculture, which every year tests a selection of conventional and organic produce that's grown in or imported into the U.S. for pesticide residues. Certain chemicals are used by farmers to control bugs, fungi, weeds. However, some of these chemicals, they say, carry unacceptable health risk. Consumer Reports says that certain notorious pesticides, such as DDT, have been banned in the U.S., but claim that government regulators have been slow to ban others. Additionally, the outlet argued that when a dangerous chemical is removed from the market, chemical companies and growers in some cases start relying on other options that may be just as dangerous. Consumer Reports said that it's been tracking the use of pesticides on produce for decades and has seen this pattern repeat itself over and over. On the other hand, it said pesticides presented little to worry about in nearly 2/3 of the foods, which included nearly everything that was organic. So, yes, when you look in the grocery store and you see the organic produce and it comes with a higher price, maybe it's worth paying that higher price. According to the report, the largest risks were caused by just a few pesticides concentrated in a handful of foods grown on a small fraction of U.S. farmland. So here, according to this analysis, About 16 of the 25 fruits and about 21 of the 34 vegetables tested showed low levels of pesticide risk. This means that kids and those who are pregnant can safely consume more than 3 servings a day of these foods, according to their report. 10 foods were moderate risk, which means you could have up to 3 servings a day. And a dozen foods presented bigger concerns. This means kids and pregnant women should consume less than a serving a day of these high-risk fruits and vegetables. Some of those on the list. They created a list of 6 conventionally grown fruits and vegetables where pesticides pose a serious problem. And they offer you some alternatives as well. So blueberries, for example. Some blueberries had a very high concentration of these pesticides. The substitutions were to buy organic blueberries, which did well, and fresh domestic strawberries were okay as well. So rather than maybe buying the strawberries in a grocery store, don't want to make my grocery store friends mad, but buy them from some of these markets like Dillard's and Greer and places around. There are a lot of them up around Hendersonville and all around the Carolinas. Bell peppers. Substitutions, organic bell peppers are the best choice or to consume this food sparingly, they said. Hot peppers also pose a very high risk of the pesticide poisoning. Potatoes also had a high risk. Their suggestion, substitute sweet potatoes, which have a very low risk. Green beans, substitute snap peas. Organic green beans grown domestically are also a good substitute. Kale and mustard greens. They suggest that you substitute organic kale and mustard greens as well as broccoli, all pose a very low risk. Fresh spinach, which is also a better choice, poses a moderate risk. And then finally, watermelon. Organic watermelon, cantaloupe also poses a very low risk as well. So bottom line here is do your research, and when available, it appears that organic maybe is a better choice, even though it's going to cost you a few extra pennies or dollars. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Hey, appreciate you joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio to lose weight for the last time. Get ready for summer. Visit myphdweightloss.com. Please join our mailing list. Just go to joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button. You can receive our emails with some of the most up-to-date news. And find me on YouTube. Just search for Joey Hudson. If you can't find it, send me a quick text. I'll send you the link. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with me. Be sure and share today's episode with a friend or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. All you have to do is just press the share button and choose a few people on your contact list. This is how we continue to grow Just the Truth. So will you do that for me right now before you forget? Go ahead and share today's episode so your friends, and ask them. Be very specific. Ask them to follow, subscribe to Just the Truth, and join our community here. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-5639, and keep those emails coming as well, joey@joeyhudson.com. We're back again tomorrow. I hope you'll plan to be with us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.